Good morning, everyone. I am Chitra from AKGEC College, and today we will teach a topic that is classes and object, and it's a topic of object-oriented system design. And the subject code is KC054. So let's proceed with the topic. What is classes and object? Basically, what is class? A class is a user-defined data type that holds its own data member. For example, if you are having a data member like integer type, you are having A, float type, you are having B, or a double or a char type, you are having T. These all are known as a data member. The variable which you will declare, which will be accessed by creating the instance. Here, instance is basically the object of that class. With the help of that, we can accessing its data member. So a class is basically holding the data members and the member functions together. So it is holding the properties of a class. Now this is a basic syntax of your class. Like here, after writing the class, we need to mention the class name. Then there will be a curly brace. After that, we need to specify the data member and the member functions together. Then there will be a curly brace and the terminator. This is the basic syntax of a class. Now, keep this thing in the mind that this name is a user defined. That class name you can put anything that you want to put, but this class is a keyword. But before the data member or the member function, you need to specify the access specifier here as well. It can be the private, public, or it will be the protected as well. Data member are the variable which you need to use. As we studied earlier, it can be your integer type, float type, double or char type. And member functions are the method through which we will access them, these data member. And the class name will generally end with the semicolon. Points which you need to be taken or which you need to be remember about the class, that is above. So far from the above declaration, we have seen that it is binding our data member and the function together, and in OOPS, to bind the data and the method together in a single class is referred as your encapsulation. That's the important feature of your object-oriented programming, encapsulation, that binding together your data member and the methods together in a single unit, that is known as a class. And the body of the class is generally enclosed between the braces, and always remember to terminate it with the semicolon. The keyword public, private, these all are known as your access specifier, which will specify the scope of that member basically. What will be the scope? Within the class, outside of the class, or beyond the outside the class, basically in the main function, right? By default, the members of the class are private. As we mentioned here, by default it's private. If you will not specify anything, then it will be considered as a private if no access specified is declared, right? So how many types of access specifiers are here? It will be public, private, and protected. Protected you will study better with the help of the concept of inheritance, because it either the protected member are accessed by your inheritance or by using your friend functions, right? Now it's a basic code of your object-oriented programming, in which you have mentioned that after including your header files, iostream.h should be there, right? After including your header file, it's mentioning a class. After that, it's mentioned the name of the class, that is my class. Now, what you need to be take care, why I am writing this code, you need to be taken care that in a public mode, it's declaring the object, declaring the data member here, right? In the public mode, declaring basically I, J, K, these are the data member, these are the variables, right? As they are declared public, so their scope will be the entire program. In a main method, now what is code doing basically? In the main method, it is creating the object of that class, and it is accessing these variable I, J, K with the help of the object, and it is assigning a value, and that is permissible here. Why? Because the scope is here public defined, so that's why it can be accessed outside the main basic. It can be accessed outside the scope of the class in the main function as well. There will be no error. Now a.I, a.J, a.K, the A is the object of the class. With the help of this object, we can access this variable and we can provide the value to this data member as well. But here, we are not specifying them public. We are specifying them in a private mode. Now, as they are specifying private, so their scope cannot be the outside of the class. You cannot access them outside of the class. Now, if inside the main, I am creating the object of the class, and if with the help of the object, we need to provide the values of this variable, then this will be not applicable. It will give you a compile time error that the private members are not visible outside the class body, right? This is the difference between a public or a private specifier. accessing private data member. Now, if it is not accessible outside the class, then how we will access them? We can only access them with the help of its member function, because directly private data member will not be accessible outside the class in the main, but an object can call the member function, and the private data member can be accessible within the member function as well. At least it is having a scope inside the class. It is not having the scope the outside of the class. It is having scope limited to the class only. So we can provide the values, or we can access them inside the member function. Then we can call that member function with the help of the object outside the class in the main function. Member function are those functions which is declared inside the class body, right? Now see here, in this particular code, after including the header files, we are having a class student here. Now it is having a data member that is of integer type, specifying here in a private mode. In a public specifier, it specifies there are two member functions. One which is required to get the value of roll number, the one which is required to set the value of that data member basically, right? Now after that, in a main method, what it needs to do after terminating the class, what it's doing basically, after creating the object of that class, now if I will directly giving a value to this data member, like a dot roll number should be 1, and it is specifying under a private mode. Now this will not be applicable. It will definitely give an error, because a private data member will not be accessible outside the class. But a private data variable will be accessible inside the member function. That for example, in a get roll number function, in a set roll number function, here these are the two member function of the class, and it's a data member of a class. So we can accessible inside the function, right? So if I am here giving the value of this roll number by the member function calling here a dot set roll number 1, it will be applicable. Now if we need to display this, then we can call the member function get, and we can display the value as well. This will be applicable, but here it will give an error. That's the main concept of the private data member. If you are specifying a data member private, then you can access it only inside the class, and if you want to access it outside of the class, then you have to use them in the member function, and with the help of the object, after creating the object, you can call that data member. You can provide its value as well, but just by calling the member function. With the help of the member function only, you can provide the value. That's what we have mentioned here. The only member function can access your private data member, and the member function are those which are specifying inside the class as well, right? Now the class method definition. It says a class can be, a member function can be defined in a two ways, either outside of the class, either inside of the class. Wherever you are declaring it, just define it there as well. And if you're not defining it there, then you can define it outside of the class as well, but with the help of the scope resolution operator. Now see here, function outside the class. What we do here, it's a class we are defining here. Inside the class, here I'm declaring the member function as well as defining them as well. So here I'm declaring, and definition is doing the same thing I'm doing inside the class. This is the one, defining inside the class. The another one outside the class. For outside of the class, what we need to do, whatever you are doing, declaring, after declaring, terminate your class with the help of the semicolon, then define the body of, define that function outside of your class by using the scope resolution operator as we said earlier. Now let's see a code here. For example, there is a class box. It is having the three type data member that are length, breadth and height. Then it is having a member function get volume. Now it is just declaring it. It is not defining it here. Here just a declaration of that member function. We will define it outside of the class, but how to define? Return type is double, so mention that return type. Class name is box, mention the class name. Scope resolution operator, after that your member function name, its type, return type, then after that variable type, and then its definition body. This is the way you need to define your member function outside the body, outside the class body, right? After the class, if you want to define, you have to mention the return type of that function, that class name, scope resolution, then its member function, variable type, right? After that, here the scope resolution operator tells the compiler that the function name is belonging to this class name. Like this get volume is belonging to this class name box function inside the class. Now if it wants to define the same function inside the class, how it will do? Wherever it is declaring, inside the declaring it's defined as well. Similar, both the thing, declaration and definition, at the same place you are doing, right? So thank you so much. This is the way we are studying the concept of classes, object, and how to call the object. And we have seen how much specifiers are here, how to call them, how to define it inside the class, how to define it outside the class. And if there are variable which are declaring private, you cannot call them directly. You cannot provide their variable values as well, you know, right? You can call them via member function. Without member function, the calling will not be possible, right? And if they are specifying in the public mode, then it will be accessible. How to differentiate between these two? So here we have studied the specifier public and the private, and the protected definitely we're going to study it with the help of the either the friend function or with the help of the inheritance concept. And once again, I am briefing. These are the few points which you need to take care about the class, right? And this is the basic syntax of your classes. So we are here the function inside the class. If we need to define a function inside the class, then we can do it as well, declaring and defining both at the same place. Previously, we have seen outside the class with the help of the scope resolution operator, specify its return type, class name, then specify the function name and provide the definition of that function, right? So these are the member function which belongs to that class. Now there are a special member function as well, that is constructor. It is also a member function of the class, but it automatically called when the object is initialized. No need to call them. In the case of the previously we have seen here, in that case, here we are having the member function get roll number and set roll number, but it cannot call itself automatically. We need to call them with the help of the object. We have created here object of the class. With the help of the object, we are calling this member function. But constructor are the special member function which will get automatically called when the object is created. It is a special member function of the class. That's why we say it's a special, because no need to call. It get automatically called when the object once created, right? Now there are the few things which we need to define, or how the constructor basically different from a normal member function, right? A constructor is having the same name as of your class itself. That's why it's called automatically, right? Constructor do not have any return type, not even void as well. Constructor is called automatically when your object get created, and we do not specify a constructor in a C++ compiler generate a default constructor for us. If you will not specify, then it will automatically call, right? Now there are the ways how to define a constructor outside the class and inside the class. As a member function is defining inside the class, outside the class with the help of the scope resolution, so constructor similarly can also be defined inside the class or outside the class. So here the function constructor we can also define outside the class with the help of scope resolution operator. Inside the class, how we define it? If you are having a class name, let's say ABC, then the constructor name should have the same ABC. Here the member function is having the same name as the name of our class. That's why whenever the object of ABC get created or initialized, this constructor will get called automatically. Whatever the definition part we need to give to a member function, we can put it here. Outside of the class, we can define it outside of the class, but before that we need to declare it inside the class as we do with the member function. So here we are declaring the constructor, then outside the class with the help of the class name, scope resolution and the constructor name, which is the same name of the class. So here it comes two times. The name of the class will come two times. First we'll specify that it's a class. The second will specify that it's a constructor, right? And then we can put the definition of the member function. The constructor can be defined under the public, private and the protected section, as well as we are defining the member function. Now there are the types of the constructor as well. We will study only the two types today, that is a default and the parameterized. A default is a basic is a constructor which do not have any argument type and no parameter itself, right? For example, here I am having a class construct name and we are having a data member A and B. In the default constructor, we are having the same name of the class we are providing the values of this data member, that is A and B, and we are not passing any argument here inside the braces. So it's a default constructor. In the main, what we are doing, we are creating the object of our class. Just by creating the object, this constructor will get automatically called. The values will be initialized to A to B, that is 10 and 20, and then we are displaying it with the help of the object, right? The values will get stored in our variable will get value definitely. Then we are specifying here, we are displaying it here. Just, it's a default constructor and it will get called automatically when the object is created, and we are not passing here any parameter, right? That's why it's a default one. In continuation to that, there is a parameterized constructor as well. As the name suggests, parameterized. So this is a constructor which is having the parameter, which is having the argument as well. It is a parameterized constructor. It is used to provide the different values to the distinct object, right? Different object will get the different values here. For example, here is a class employee. It is having a variable data member ID. It is having a name. It is having a salary as well. Now it is having a constructor because it's having the same name of the class, right? So it is a constructor. Now, whatever the data variable it is taken, it is initializing their values. It is initializing them the values with the help of the argument passing in at the time of creating the object. So here, one is of integer type, one is of string type, one is of float type. So whatever the values will get passed in that constructor, we will get passed into this data member. Then there is a display method which will, with the help of which we will display the values of ID, name and salary. After that, we are ending our class, we are terminating our class. In the main, now what it is doing, it is creating the object even of employee class. While creating the object, we need to pass the value set as well because it's a parameterized constructor. If we will not pass any parameter, it will call the default at that time, right? So it's create another object E2 with a different set of values, and for both the object it is displaying the value set. So that's what we have mentioned here, that it is used to provide the different values to the different object basically, right? The number of the object I am creating here, the number of the parameters that we will pass here, it will get called our parameterized constructor with that set of values. So each and every object will get the different set of values with the help of the parameterized constructor. This is the basic concept of your object-oriented concept like classes, how to create the object, how to define the data members under the public, private mode, how to define your member function inside the class or outside the class. Then there is a special member function as well, that is a constructor. How to call it? Do we really need to call it, or it will get automatically called? We have seen that it is having the parameterized constructor as well as the default constructor we have studied here. And after that, we will definitely going to study the overloading concept. Thank you so much.